really big news, everybody. Welcome to Legalization news. Last week, we had this filing in a case to call that it's unconstitutional the Schedule 1 status of cannabis. And the feds, for the first time ever, put something into a filing about the rescheduling of the cannabis plant as reason to justify the dismissal of its lawsuit. We have a lot to go over in that, but first, why don't we bring on Miggy after I tell you thank you for joining us, especially if you're a subscriber or a member of the channel. We really appreciate it. So, feel free to interact with us in the live chat. Give us some super chats if you want us to ask you or answer your questions. And let's get Miggy on here. What's up, Miggy?
You could be anywhere, but you're with us here Sunday, or you're watching us later on, which is either way, thank you.
Yeah, because maybe you want to watch Baltimore, or maybe you want to watch Kansas City, or maybe you want to watch Detroit here in a couple of hours.
Or maybe you just want to play Call of Duty and have a beer.
Hey, that's perfectly fine for a Sunday.
Yes, sir. Anyway. Hey, so yeah, this Biden DOJ telling the courts, man. Yep. Interesting stuff, huh?
Oh, this one's great. And so this one came out last week. And so now, as opposed to just acting like a social media influencer, content creator, where I just entertain people and do dances and stuff, I get to actually act like what I do for a living, because I don't get paid for doing this shit, and be a lawyer, which is really cool. Yeah, they have the filing. The motion to dismiss is at the bottom of this article. Why don't we go ahead and scroll down to that, and then you know what? I'll just share.
Oh, you're good. Oh, there you go. There you go.
One of the things that you have to understand about federal court is how well laid out and pretty and plain it all is, and very choreographed. It's not like state court. So they've done a wonderful job doing their motion to dismiss, and the motion is very, very brief. It's like a page. That's how it works. And then they have their local rule certification and their certificate of service, because that's very important in litigation.
What does that mean?
You have to give people notice. It's one of the big things about due process. A lot of due process is notice and a reasonable opportunity to be heard. And so the certificate of service, one of the cornerstones of your due process rights. Anyway, and then after that, you have your memorandum in support of the motion to dismiss. This is where the real nitty gritty is. All the stuff that has to do with the legal argument. Okay. And then before that, they do a table of contents. And so then they tell you how it's organized. Yes. And then they also do a table of authorities, because this is everybody that they are citing to.
Oh, neat.
Yes. And so there's all these cases. The main one is the Raich case. Go ahead.
Well, this document that you pulled out, because this is all about, there was a lawsuit against federal government trying about the whole injustice, right? So wasn't it was it a company that sued? Who initiated this lawsuit? Do you know?
Oh, a lot of companies actually sued. So you can go up to the caption of the complaint, and so the caption is right here. You have Canna Provisioners Inc., GYASI Sellers, Wiseacre. Verano Holdings. Yeah. And so Verano is also one of the plaintiffs. And then you sue, because you need to have an individual. You have to sue a human. And then in that instance, it's Merrick Garland in his official capacity as the Attorney General of the United States. And so this is all those plaintiffs v. United States. And this is that motion to dismiss. Of course, the last aspect of the table of authorities are the statutes. And then they get into the actual introduction
CSA.
The CSA. And so they define terms, because that's what you have to do in litigation. You have to define terms, but this really doesn't start until page 8. Dismiss.
This is an actual, you say dismiss though. So the paperwork we're looking at right now is paperwork trying to dismiss the lawsuit that's in place. Is that where we're at? Okay. Right. So it shows the origins. But this is paperwork coming in from, and then who's asking for dismissal?
The United States of America.
Okay. Gotcha. And because it applies about the new coming up possible rescheduling, right?
No, for a litany of other reasons that we're going to kind of cover and go over and do a little bit of a deep dive into. One of the aspects is they say that this has a rational basis. And so if you are not familiar with constitutional attacks at statutes, you do not get what they call strict scrutiny unless you have a fundamental right. And there has never been, and there is not, a fundamental right to engage in the marijuana businesses. And they go over that in some detail. And then, of course, they have this other, if you don't have a fundamental right, which gets strict scrutiny, and it's just an economic regulation, then you have what they call rational basis review, which is any conceivable basis reasonably related to the legitimate government interest in regulating interstate commerce. Many people might not know this, but the Controlled Substances Act is an comprehensive commercial regulatory framework for drugs. And that is the whole point of it. And then in the background that they go here, they talk about the Rage case. We're going to get into that in a minute, but that's really what we talk about here in the statute. And so they have this fundamental that it just comprises the whole scheduling of everything for controlling the drugs and the interstate commerce market in drugs. And that's what the CSA does. Unfortunately, one component of the CSA, as applied, is unconstitutional, meaning that the Schedule 1 status of marijuana. And so that's kind of what they are explaining the background to in this section. And then they get to Massachusetts marijuana laws, because one of the plaintiffs is from Massachusetts, a Massachusetts company. And then we get to footnote number 1, which is one of the interesting ones. Because this has never really happened, because there have been a lot of these cases and they are cited later. A lot of them were through NORML. So shout out to NORML. If you guys have NORML in your state, cool, drop it in the comments. Let us hear about it. I'm on the NORML legal council, so I get a lot of emails about legal issues that's going on with NORML. But to this point, neither Congress nor the Attorney General have altered marijuana's Schedule 1 status. And they talk about section, and then 21 U.S.C. 8, section 811 is section 811 of the Controlled Substances Act. And that is where they talk about the change of scheduling. So right here, they kind of go into how there is this method that is provided under the Controlled Substances Act for authorizing the Attorney General, aka the DEA, to reschedule or remove drugs based on scientific and medical recommendations from the Secretary of Health and Human Services, amongst other considerations. And they cite to it. And then neither Congress nor the Attorney General have altered this. And then they drop a footnote and they'll revisit this later.
That sounds like a sensible argument, but couldn't an argument be made as well that no drug has been descheduled? Has there? Right? Because even
that doesn't make any legal sense.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like when you're talking about the not having the ability to be. The first argument was you're not allowed to be in business, right? There's not not every American, can be a freaking drug operator. But why? Why is it that, I just happen to have a lot of money. I decided to invest in the actual protocols and whatnot. Couldn't that be, an arbitrary argument as well, right? Isn't this like the CSA itself is just not good faith thing.
It's a federal court, and so you have to be very specific about how your claim for that remedy that you're requesting accrues, and whether that you even have standing, because federal court is what they call a court of limited jurisdiction. So no matter when you file a complaint in federal court, you may expect a motion to dismiss pursuant to this particular rule of federal procedure being filed to get rid of your claim or case. And sometimes I call it a claim, sometimes I call it a case. That's just the jargon in being a lawyer. And so you have to have stated a claim, and you have to have pled it correctly. And so they are attacking their standing, which would then remove their ability to even ask the court for what they're trying to get it to do. Before they even get to the merits, you get to the issue of standing, but then in the actual complaint, at least characterized and cast by the Attorney General's office. See, there it is. Plaintiffs bring 2 claims, very often called counts. First, plaintiffs say that the CSA, Controlled Substances Act, prohibition of intrastate, so just inside the state, exceeds Congress's authority under the Commerce Clause. No, it doesn't. Which I saw that and I'm like, man, you're never going to win that. And they may be dismissed out of this case because of how many other cases have said that that is just not the law. And the second claim, plaintiffs claim that the CSA's prohibition of marijuana are authorized by state law violates the substantive due process component of the Fifth Amendment due process clause. Basically, you can't have arbitrary laws. And so that's what they are saying. But to support it, they are contending that the right to cultivate, manufacture, possess, and distribute marijuana, subject only to state health, safety, and public welfare, is deeply rooted in this nation's history and tradition and implicit in the concept of bordered liberty. They are trying to allege that you have a fundamental right to engage in marijuana business.
This, well, I mean, America, right? Like we're supposed to all be capitalists and be like even a chance.
Right. No, a fundamental right is something that we should all, as Americans, be educated in like 7th grade civics. Unfortunately, it is not, and so very often we do not have fundamental rights. Most likely, most recently, at least by the Supreme Court, is the removal of the fundamental right for privacy, which was the right that gave you the right to have an abortion or access to medical care to be able to get an abortion. So what I would have argued, and these guys didn't pay me, they paid Schiller Boyce hundreds of thousands of dollars to file this case that's now going to maybe be dismissed. I would have argued that you have a fundamental right to access medical care or have your state say what is medical care in your state. And so if your state says that this is medical care in your state, the federal government doesn't have the right to get in the way of that. But again, that may then allow you to have abortion, but we don't even have that fundamental right. That would be a new fundamental right. You don't even, in America, you don't even have the right to access healthcare.
But can it be argued that this is like a holistic option, right? This is the natural option. This is
fundamental right. And so like you have to understand, you have to think like,
well, what is a fundamental? Tell me, what is that though? What is the basis for a fundamental?
Very often they're the ones that are in the Bill of Rights. And so if we were going to
happiness, isn't that like one of them?
It's no.
Well, I'm just saying. The right to equality, but so this answer me this too though. The purpose of the lawsuit was to get it descheduled or rescheduled. Is that what was the purpose behind the actual lawsuit?
To invalidate the scheduling entirely, to say that it is unconstitutional to Schedule 1 it, and then therefore say that it's no longer scheduled.
But wouldn't the better argument be just overall, just to annihilate the CSA because of the inequality between cannabis, cigarettes, and tobacco and alcohol? Why not?
No, because the CSA is a constitutional exercise of Congress's authority to regulate the interstate market of drugs.
So the CSA is Congress backed. Is that why it's so powerful when it comes to American law?
Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, the Commerce Clause. Congress has plenary. Plenary is a spooky word. It means a lot, like all of it. Power to regulate the interstate commerce. And that's why they are able to do this. Fundamental rights, again, those are typically the ones that are found in the Bill of Rights. So bear arms, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, right to a fair trial, right against self-incrimination. And we had implied a right to privacy that was overruled because for some reason, like half of our country thinks that if you get an abortion, you've committed murder, and so they said you can't have privacy with your doctor, and so they overruled Roe v. Wade, and so I wanted to say that we have a fundamental right to privacy through access to state-approved medical care. Now, because they've overruled that with the Dobbs decision, and 26,000 extra rapes resulted in pregnancies to teenagers in Texas since that decision, we don't even have that as a fundamental right anymore.
What's even horrible?
We would need a constitutional amendment to create like the right to have health care.
Well, I mean, besides what's horrible about this law case in particular is also that was based off a fake case, right? It was a pretend hypothetical. Wasn't that the case that was argued at Supreme Court that the origins of or they just went and reversed the Dobbs? Is that what that was? Because I know there was something that
they overruled Roe versus Wade, finding that you have a privacy right. It comprises a fundamental right, so that they said that no, you don't. They can outlaw abortion because, and then they used that it's the same. Like it's they're called terms of art. And so like these types of terms of art were also then reused in that Dobbs decision, where you have this is deeply rooted in the nation's history and tradition and implicit in the concept of ordered liberty. So I think that it's implicit in the concept of ordered liberty to be able to access healthcare.
Right.
The Republicans disagree with me on that because of aborted fetuses.
Right. Well, even the religion one that you brought up, right? Because I mean, there was that one case in Texas.
That's First Amendment.
Good.
So like that again, it gets back to fundamental rights, which are in the Bill of Rights and also in your amendments. But the courts and our country never has really said that you have the right to access healthcare. If anything, they said it for about 50 years and then they walked it back.
Sure.
So I wouldn't have passed this as the engaging of enterprise of marijuana. I would have cast it as an access to healthcare as a fundamental right.
Oh yeah, 100%. But but I think cannabis, though, no matter what the topic it's part of, is always going to get a bad rap, right? Because like the religion part, in the military, Native Americans. I had a buddy who went to South Dakota. He went on peyote trips, right? But if you're a Rastafari or someone who identifies that this is your sacrament, you're done. There's no ifs, ands, or but. But if you're Catholic and do wine on Sundays, only on Sundays, you're okay. But
yeah,
it's very.
What are we talking about? It's the prejudice. It's just that deep. And so sometimes peyote is respected, but then the church of Rastafarians can't use their sacrament.
Exactly. I always found the hypocrisy of this whole conversation all the time. When what is the right? And you would think, unfortunately, these guys were having a weaker argument because the medical right would definitely be the wellness option. I should be able to.
They did not hire. Verano, this is your fault.
Well, now these guys, because this was heard, though. I mean, that's part of why you pay for very expensive lawyers, right? Because these guys know who to handshake and who to. Because if any lawsuit, it doesn't have to be heard, right? It doesn't have to be.
Most of them are not heard, right? But then the reason why you should hire a lawyer is because they're smart as shit and can do the job. Now, sometimes that is being plugged in and connected to the prosecutors and the other people that have the discretion. This is why they lack standing. And so this is a nice example right here. And this is probably a Supreme Court. No, it's a First Circuit case that's doing it. And then these are what they are. Have its elements. And then so law, there's a lot of elements. And then you have to find those elements and either allege them or you have to have them in the case of standing, because federal court is a limited jurisdiction state. So a plaintiff must, and then it's usually a list, 1, 2, 3. And then you have facts that prove that you're there. One of the things is that they don't have standing because these licensed cannabis holders aren't being hurt, which is pretty interesting.
That's true. Well, because they're working around the confines.
They say they don't have standing because the Department of Justice is not enforcing the Controlled Substances Act.
Okay.
Isn't that fucked up? And if you think that's messed up, that's interesting that now you're in America, you don't have the right for health care. And also the feds can have a law against what you're doing and not enforce it. And you can't say that it's bonkers and arbitrary and irrational and unconstitutional because they have discretion.
Weed makes it better.
Think about that as you enjoy that it's 20 past the hour and 4:20 in New York.
Safe.
Yes. I tell you what, I just want to give a shout out to Collateral Base. They are doing the best. If you are trying to get a cannabis license in a limited market state and you haven't hired Collateral Base, well, that's your own fault, bro. And one of our biggest feeders is CannabisIndustryLawyer.com, where you should go and book your call now, and you'll be taken to nope, that's a broken link. I'm going to fix that anchor. And then, yep, that's exactly it. And so then we have our little widget that you can fill out, and that will get you into our system so that we can send you emails and follow up to see whether or not you are a good fit for the cannabis industry. And many people aren't.
Well, I mean, it's a long run, right? Here we are, 6 months, 2 weeks, 7 days, 4 hours, 3 minutes, and still no fucking license. No social equity license. I mean, I'm not mad at you, Illinois, but first we've been doing this for such a long time, and
5 years next week.
Well, even before that, though, with the Facebook page, right?
Like
spreading the word.
I don't think we're shadow banned anymore. We can buy ads now. And so I'm gonna
put together. What?
Don't fuck with it up. Don't go nuts on this. I think if I do this right, we can have ads on Facebook and Instagram for Cannabis Industry Lawyer, especially after it's
there you go. Yeah. There you go. Boost that cloud out base, baby. Get that bag. But that's But as I was saying, like, we're almost there to where I have not ever made money at this thing. I've always been like just trying to champion the goddamn like law itself, right? Like, fellow citizen, here we are. That's how I know you. That's how we've been friends and do the shit we do online, which I think the internet has helped. Like that we were in the early times of the the websites and trafficking and the SEO and I think there's still legacy industry. But the fact is that you've been doing. I think it's more important that you've had prior legal banking experience as a real lawyer, and then you cross over to cannabis and then the industry side. I mean, it's all non-sexy, right? This whole policy to make the change policy and get a good law, going on. This is, not as easy as a sweep of the pen, or it could be, right? What we talked about, 29th Amendment, 28th Amendment, that'd be dope.
28th Amendment, the lit amendment.
Yeah. The lit amendment,
legalize it, America. Wait, no, legalize it.
Today.
Legalize it today. We are establishing the Lit Act. I'm sorry, amendment.
Ooh, I like it.
Anyway, before we go on to our next story, I just wanted to, and we could probably spend all of the show going over this filing, but I wanted to move on to the next stories. I think we did a fairly deep dive. I could do a very deep. I could maybe do like a video and just drop it where I spend like a half hour going over this. Anyway, before we wrap it up, I did just want to say, hey, here's something. Like, again, Congress acted rationally in classifying marijuana as Schedule I substance. There's a lot of precedent that says that, and that's one of the reasons why they just have this. Here is cite. But right before the conclusion of this, it's pretty interesting that they say Congress also rationally set up an administrative process for rescheduling drugs.
Yeah.
Pursuant to that mechanism, the DEA is currently considering HHS's recommendation to reschedule marijuana.
That's huge.
It is not for the courts to disrupt or get ahead of that administrative process. A public policy argument by the United States saying, we're working on it. We're going to moot this claim. And we don't even need to get to that claim because they don't have standing because we're not enforcing the law. So they're not hurt. And so like my response to that was like, let's go get all the Biden pardons and say, hey, we were hurt. We were injured. We want our money back. You took my life for a while. And then anybody else who's under federal prosecution right now, that's where you can get into impleader and try to like bring in new plaintiffs to say, okay, well, we have been hurt. We were, that would be one way that they could then possibly have standing as a group. Kind of. I mean, like some of them, they're just saying they have an economic right. They haven't alleged it. And then there's another part where they say they haven't alleged it in concrete enough detail. So like that, you'd have to get like somebody like Luke Scarmazzo or Lance Glore on your board, right? Because like, talking to Lance a while ago, he's still on freaking probation, dude. The guy can't consume cannabis for another, I think he said like 8 years. It blew my mind. I was like, oh, that's poo-poo. That's justice, right? Like that's why, we talk about this. So like, yeah, that's just the unfairness of this too. As my qualification for the social equity was like an infraction, a minor. And you're super social equity. So you also live in a disproportionately impacted area under the statute of Illinois.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, like I just qualified, but the arrest is the gateway, right? But you can get super arrested. How weird is that? You can get overly arrested, You have it overly because you really felt confident in this plant, right? Because I always felt confident. I carry it with me 90% of the time. Even when I sold it, I was like, this is not something I'm going to freak about. Like I will comply, because I'd rather not get shot. But like, that's what legalization too. It helps not put you, safe access, right? It doesn't put people in bad positions. It doesn't, gives you a choice on the plant. There's a lot of reasons why rescheduling would benefit, and they're not going to mess with the present markets. This just
but
not.
again, let's talk about how long briefing takes. And so they filed that motion. They got to do a response and then a reply, and then there's a hearing. We could go. We have the PACER ID. It's all public record. There's a notice of hearing for whenever this is going to be argued. I really hope that the rule is published before this is argued. That'd be great.
Oh,
I don't know if that's going to happen, but it'd be great.
Well, if a ruling came out, it would affect not just this, but also the Hemp Act, right? I mean, there's a domino effect. You don't think it would? When you're talking about
nothing in the Hemp Act there's nothing before the court about hemp.
No, but I mean, as far as like if I was a grow, if I was a farm, it would change protocols. I wouldn't be sweating like testing hot anymore, right? No longer is it I have to burn a whole crop. Now right. I can rethink of a viable option to like resell it. Maybe the proper licensing.
It's again like to beat a test for hemp, if the hemp license is pretty easy because you have to do it 4 weeks, maybe in a couple of days, 30 days, no more. When you know you're going to harvest and you're a fucking farmer, so you know that thing that you're trying to flower because you've been growing it for a while, you're going to know 30 days from when you're going to pick it.
Right.
And so it is THC compliant 30 days before harvest. And then you take a cola up at the top. So like the stuff that I have in my basement looks great, but it's already past that. Like I probably would have already sent it in for testing and I would have done no defoliation on it, on that place that I'm getting tested, because then you're able to blend it and then you test it for total THC. So you grind it all up, stems, leaves, everything. And the THC hasn't even started forming yet, really, because it all comes in the last month. A lot of it comes in the last month, at least. And you see if you're less than 0.3. But if you're between 0.3 and 0.7, you could still try to remediate it, but then it's just not that.
What are those? Well, I'm just talking with you and been doing this for how we do it on the business side of things. We do culture, but this is not legal advice or financial advice, but this is something that we both obsessed with, like the SKU thing, right? The fact there's so many SKUs, but now, that whole process you just explained has spread into the gas stations, right? Now people are popping hot. You can test positive for taking some of these products that are over the counter. Because shit, yeah. Yep. It was a good conversation. Hey, shout out to Cole, man. Him traveling and doing all that hot content, man, because he's covering everything. That the taboo topics. Legalization, sex, drugs, rock and roll, baby.
You got to do it. Hey, we got some more states. We have a little bit more news. I mean, the big story was this filing right here from last week. The first time a court filing has ever referenced the administrative rulemaking process for cannabis.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to see. That's foreshadowing, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
That is as foreshadowing as rescheduling gets.
Mm-hmm.
We have Cannabis Business Time reporting 11 states that could legalize cannabis in 2024. And so this is one of those things that always happens as we have another year. What states will legalize it this year?
Yeah. And rescheduling, how would it affect these states, right? Like it would put them in their own.
Wisconsin is a modified trigger law state, I believe. Maybe it's just a trigger law state. So it would be pretty orderly in Wisconsin. And that may be how it finally becomes medically legal in Wisconsin, because the state would then have this trigger that would happen, and they would have a licensing round to become in compliance therewith. Many of the states will fall into that, and I really hope that is a burgeoning field of my practice in the coming year, to have a federal licensing process that you can do And I'm going to offer it one day over at CannabisIndustryLawyer.com.
Well, and check out Tom's video on trigger laws if you don't know what it is. I mean, real quick, do you want us to say what it is, or?
Oh no, it's they kind of know. If you don't know what a trigger law is here, I want you to go back to 7th grade civics and demand a refund.
I didn't have civics. I don't remember.
Oh, yes,
in high school.
So, 2024, who's going to maybe legalize? We got Wisconsin on the map. It's a trigger law, but that would be for medical. Everything that's come out of that so far has kind of sucked. Florida may do it by ballot, by vote this fall. That would be fascinating. And Florida has got a different style of its trigger law. It's more tied to their own legislature. However, Florida, if they legalize it, I believe would. Like you think Illinois is a pain in the ass, like Florida's a pain in the ass. Arizona, like the certified millionaire states. I think Florida would become a certified millionaire state. There might not even be another licensing round.
Sure. I mean, they already have a limited state with the medical scenes. I'd imagine
it's bizarre. It's limited, not limited. And so if you have a license, it's unlimited. You can open as much canopy as you can sell. You can have as many stores as you can open.
But how do you get a license?
Exactly. There's only like 20 of them in the whole fucking state, and there's 26 million people down there.
Crazy. That's an investment of like protecting, right? These people are just hoarding that,
Oh, right now, the people that have applied are just kind of taking it in the ass. And then what I mean by that is you have carry costs because you had to apply, you had to lock up real estate. There's just a holding cost for that. And so sometimes you have like a tenant that's inside the real estate so that it's not complete loss. But you had to have had that real estate, and then you applied. It was $150,000 plus application fee, and then if you win, it's $1 million. But there are dozens, hopefully, and at least 2. We'll see if they're going to issue another 24 licenses coming in the spring to summer. So like maybe May to June, hopefully. That's their rumor mill down there.
So Hawaii might do it then next, huh?
Hawaii, yeah. And so that was hilarious. Remember that passive-aggressive story we did a few weeks ago?
Yes. They're very complacent. And again, you think these tropical paradises, I thought California was going to be one of the first ones to do it, but it's, again, who's in charge? It's not about the people's choice. It's who's in charge or who's paying off who. I showed you the article, last year, Cannabis, what do you call it? The lobbyists. They dumped $3 million, which was open record. So when that's like a drop in the water when it comes to like making the rules, right? Like some of these people are putting billions out there with like people champion to all the legislatures and talking to them because this process is very, very arduous. For lack of a better word.
Not too sexy, and sometimes you have to do it again. Like they made it in South Dakota. So when they legalized it and then they overturned it, so they might say, okay, let's try this again and then legalize it. We'll see.
Well, and then you think they'll
go for it. When Idaho's on the list, we're getting close to legalization.
Kind Idaho is definitely one of the players definitely trying to change the rules down there. So if you can, support them.
Kind Idaho. Shout out to Kind Idaho. If you're watching from Idaho, you are the only one watching from Idaho. But you're awesome, buddy.
For real though.
New Hampshire.
They have medical?
They do. They're fairly conservative in the New England area, and I think that's just one of the reasons why they're a holdout.
Well, I mean, like I don't think they're New Hampshire's. Or was that where the last caucus was just at?
No, I think that was the most recent primary that just happened was New Hampshire.
Primary, yeah. So like the turnout there was very purple, right? There's a very lot of common sense people who were like, fuck the guy with 91 indictments. But there's also a lot of crazy because he did win. But like,
Well, it's not a crime if you don't think it is. Okay, so Nebraska, again, another piece of foreshadowing regarding how far, not that far into the future, is legalization when Nebraska is putting it on the map. And there is a campaign out there, Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana. Shout out to them. They have to collect 87,000 signatures. And I want to, shout out to the union for becoming a YouTube member. You guys can become a member as well. We have started unlisting or like listing as members much of our catalog, and we're going to continue to do that. So eventually, I only want to have maybe about 150 videos on the channel, and everything else would be for the members. So if you want to see all of our shit, go to and join us as a member on the channel. And then if you have any questions and you are a member, we try to monitor the live chat to
Do you remember
talk to you guys.
Do you remember the Canadian cannabis documentary, The Union? That was a good one. That was a good one.
That was
Kentucky.
An OG. Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
Kentucky is great. Kentucky is already, I don't know if they will have, it might be a little too soon. They haven't done a licensing round. That's really not coming until next year in 25. They're publishing regulations for their medical. It looks like it's going to be very, very limited of a state and highly regulated. So expensive, like similar to what we're going to have to do here in Illinois. And so like how quickly, like Missouri is a good example, 2018 to 2022. So
it doesn't happen overnight.
But then Missouri did a great job of licensing a lot of individual businesses throughout the state and limiting them so much in scope that they can have a market and a lot of participants. And so I wish Illinois had done that a little bit more. Maybe after all the grower licenses are out, we'll see that. And then a few more rounds of dispensaries out there, because there's fewer dispensaries in Illinois than there are in Missouri. And that's one of the reasons why Missouri sold almost as much weed, even though they have half the population.
I would love to have some Kentucky weed, right? Some place where there's farmers. Mm-hmm. That's the best weed I want. That green bluegrass.
Pennsylvania, hey. I'd have to check there. I have to see how they are on a trigger law state, because Pennsylvania has a similar problem as Wisconsin does, in the sense that it's a very divided and somewhat Republican-centric legislature. And so, like, remember when we did the show in Minnesota where they legalized, it was a strict party line vote. By one vote, all the Democrats voted one way, all the Republicans voted another way. I know we catch some shit, and like, we're not trying to pick on you. We're just saying a lot of them vote like they voted in Minnesota. Like the same. If you look at Illinois, if you just take every state that has legalized it and legislatively, and Illinois was the first, and you go through it and you look at the yays and the nays, we could do that data set, and then we could say, like, don't argue with us, argue with the data set.
Just like talking about looking at who just voted against the border support, right? That's your big argument, but y'all voted against it. You're all voting against women's rights. Like, that's the majority of what your party is, which is not good, at least for the rest of us.
North Carolina's on the list too. I don't know. They are a THCA hemp state, so I'm not sure about them. South Carolina, even less cool than North Carolina. So I don't know.
I mean, like, every place in the United States is beautiful to get high in. Like, I just wish it was like a uniform, not get fucked with thing, right? Yeah. Like, that's the whole purpose of why we've been talking about it for so long.
Oh, you know it. You know what else we should talk about for right now? Yes, it's 40 past the hour. Let's hit a bumper and look at some weed pictures. Oh, hey, there it is. It's another one of those strains.
Dang.
Yep. So it's got some color to it, some deep, dark color, not just the lime greens.
Is the purple, is that indicative of an indica?
Or is it's indicative of certain types of strains that have that genetic in it. Whether or not they're an indica or not, I'm not sure.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But I don't know for sure.
Okay. I mean, it's a very LARPy nug, you know, like very, well, not LARPy, because that implies puffiness, but like not buddy shape. Doesn't look like this guy right here. Look at that.
There you go. Hang on. Let's zoom in on that. Miggy's. Oh, hello, Miggy. I have to move that. Hang on. There we go.
You're good.
We need to get one of the things that we need to do. We need to do some upgrades. So like if you had another camera plugged in and it's just called the Nug Cam,
Yes.
and then so you would focus
dope.
the Nug Cam on it, and then you could just, that is because one of the things that I want to do is I do want to build a YouTube studio in the dispensary. And so we should build the Nug Cam YouTube studio there, and then it'll make, and then name that strain. We could try to get some sponsors from Illinois product. You know?
Well, you say that how bad is your guys' fun police out there when it comes to like the rules of a store? Because the fun police here does
no fun police. Like they shut. So they yeah, and so like the regulations are there, and then there's a lot of lack of it. It's prosecutorial discretion, just like the United States.
Right. But that's why I asked, because like here we have experiences. There was one dank emporium that had and they would smoke though on the podcast, like actually like buy product and then go on to the other side of the. So it was really weird because they had a door that connected the building together, but the fun police said, hey, if you put barriers, lock it. Like they nailed it so you couldn't get out. Kind of a fire hazard. But, they're like, okay, there's a wall, technically, so now you're divided. And then they got raided, like probably a year into it. Somebody else changed their mind and said, no, let's not let these guys have a podcast that promotes consumption and all their equipment is fucked up. So that's why I asked about our future place where we're going to be.
Right. Well, again, that's not what we were going to do. Like we were going to do the show, but then we might have a show being done at a dispensary for educational purposes. And then we can do content about inventory control systems. We're going to do like exclusive type of content with compliance for educational purposes at the location. That is an exception to pretty much every state's regulations for advertising. One of the other ones, especially in New Jersey, is do you know that the people that are being served this ad are over 21? And we have great data that says yes, because we have social media data. It's like, here you go. Yes, we aren't, we're 99% not 99. I think we have maybe 5% or to 7% of our viewers are 18 to 24.
Sure. By default, though, everything we do is education. Talking about topics and news and culture. I mean, this is something that we both are equally interested in, in our personal, professional lives.
Hey, soon to be more professional. Name that strain.
Oh shit! Let's bring it back up.
And so let's get you the parents on this name that strain. Pure Michigan crossed with Runts. Pure Michigan and Runts. It is a hybrid. And it has a fruity hybrid, lemon and diesel, cherry and mint. Those are the terps, flavor profiles, and the odors you get. They have way too much THC on here. They say 37.5, and so it's not out of California. That would actually have a legit test on that.
You can drive the first name of this. That's the only really hint I got. There's so many fucking strains, man. Like it's just so many.
There's 11 billion. There's 11 billion strains. It's not quite purple Runts. It's not Black Diamond. Michigan does have good weed. Oh gosh, she nailed it. Lee Mortensen got Cadillac Rainbows. Shout out to her. She's another
long time. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you. Awesome.
All right.
Okay. Hey, some of the other stuff that happened this week. There was quite a bit of it. Let's get that lawsuit news, and then I want to give this guy a not trending. This was more of like crap.
Yeah. Oh, your mic is coming in and out again.
Oh, really?
Man, yeah.
How about now?
No, you're good now. Maybe it is a distance thing. I don't know.
It could have been the distance thing, but then I was just wondering if I had turned off that comment. This, though. Green Market Report is saying a lawsuit claims the New York Cannabis Social Equity Program discriminates against white men.
How?
I have not read this one. I read the one from the United States government, not the one from the white guy who's like, help.
Stephen Miller wrote this. I'm just saying, that's the Why? What's going on here, man? That's the hardest part about the social equity programs, period, right? Because you can't, you got to lay foundation of certain requirements, and they decide upon arrest and low income requirements, right?
I don't know,
So
but
like,
this one doesn't have the actual complaint. It just has the first page.
mm,
The first. Oh wait,
oh,
I can,
oh, there it
I
is.
can scroll there. There's so many different embeds that are out there for docs. All the
Yeah.
defendants.
What is the script? So what are we looking at here? What section of this lawsuit will show their cause or their hurt?
It's usually under the counts. And so this is
Okay.
more like, and so they're saying minority owned, women owned businesses. This is probably more background. And then they're mentioning races and races. And so we're in paragraph. We haven't even have a cause like a defendant facts, brochures. There's one, there's a D. Let's see what he says here. Okay, no, this is just more background facts. Let's try to see if we can find. Oh, there's one. Here's how they do it. And again, this is also federal court. First cause of action, equal protection clause, and then they cite that one. Plaintiff against all defendants. He has been denied an equal opportunity to get a license in violation of the equal protection clause, and is asking for permanent injunctive reliefs to
It's gonna
prevent
get tossed.
defendants from processing any applicants claiming SEE status based on minority-owned business or women-owned business because of their racial and gender preferences violate the United States Constitution and subject plaintiff to serious, concrete, and injurious, both reparable and irreparable. Does he have standing? If you're being excluded, that is an injury. Now, if they were just not enforcing this aspect of the law, then you haven't got an injury, which is what the first case that we went over cited.
This is just reaching though, because like number one, writing any of this requirements, that's been another painstaking part of when they actually did consider what social equity is or social, this fucked up rule that we've had in place for so many years that has affected so many lives. Right? Ending prohibition would do more good than it does harm, no matter what.
Illinois is the furthest out ahead on the constitutionality of the social equity definition, so much so that they have insulated it very, very well to such attacks. And so some states don't do that. They actually like put races and like genders in their statute, which is just asking for this lawsuit to be filed.
Right.
Illinois said it is narrowly tailored, very narrowly tailored in Illinois for what social equity means. And you're social equity because you were arrested for a joint. And then not only that, you are a longtime resident of an area that under their rules qualified, which
and each state's different.
Each state's different, but I bet if we did like a data set analysis of what they've provided in their map, what percentage of the population of America lives there, it would probably be like 35%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But still, I mean, like, and then, so that's the data set saying, like, okay, for social equity, something that's supposed to help a betterment of people who've been impacted by this messed up law. Most likely you are living in a lower income area, right? Most likely, that's you, the lowest of the poor.
They knew they could get away with it because you didn't have anything.
Now, the hard part is, hey, poor people, we've given you this $1 million lottery ticket. Have fun starting co-signing with somebody who doesn't screw you.
I got a great business model for the next round. I'm not even going to tell people what it is unless they're qualified, and then I'll tell them. But it's going to be NDAs and stuff like that. But the funniest thing is, like, I came up with it over the past week, and nobody else is doing it. And the only explanation that I have is greed. Yeah,
that they're having
really fucking creative, but
teamwork is dreamwork.
Hey,
oh, you're in and out. Hey, I got the same one up.
Good. And so cannabis use in adolescents not independently linked to poor educational outcomes. Of course, the problem is you have to go to school in Finland where they have excellent schools.
Hey. So isn't there a data set on this that was Finland?
Finland.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was. I thought it was the United States.
Finnish investigators.
Of
course, they cool. Also say, like, if you pay for college and healthcare for the people's lives, and encourage them to get educated so that they can get great jobs, weed's not going to get in the way.
Yeah, surprised if your fundamental Maslow pyramid scheme stuff is taken care of, and now you can focus on education and self betterment, right? Like, isn't like the whole utopia thing? If everybody had, running water and 3 meals a day, we'd be building things and focusing on artistic endeavors instead of trying to get by, which is kind of the thing.
Hey, do you guys remember when we were just recently talking about fundamental rights? Yeah, if you do, again, hopefully you're a subscriber then, because we got another story about that. In Mississippi, the judge says the cannabis advertising ban is constitutional. So remember that First Amendment that you have? Oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't. If you are a company, you do not have a First Amendment right to advertise that you are providing cannabis, at least according to this judge out of Mississippi. These are the types of cases that can get overruled. Hopefully it does, but it is a U.S. district judge, so we're back in federal court again. And these companies have a First Amendment right, a fundamental right in that respect, to be able to engage in reasonable commercial speech. And so that reasonable commercial speech is being denied to cannabis companies in the state of Mississippi.
Talk about unfair. Talk about what was this judge thinking? What are they smoking? Like you were a federal judge.
Well, again, we get right back to an order again. And so I have not read this one either, but there's just it is a cannabis legalization news week replete with cannabis legal news. And so it is something that he says this ruling may change if federal law changes, in the sense that you cannot have a commercial speech right in a federal crime. Now, the federal government was saying that you are not injured because we aren't enforcing this law. Then why the fuck did this guy rule that way?
But what a cop out! Like if you're law enforcement or if you're the judge, right? I'm just going to go no right away. But if the rules in general change, then you probably have an argument, right? There was a gentleman in Montana that got raided years ago during the 2011 raids, and the judge actually said, "You know what? I'm not going to prosecute you because the way things are going, it looks like history is going to be on your side." And I thought that was the coolest freaking thing, that this one judge was like, he's on the wrong side of this bad law, right? But that doesn't happen every time. A lot of these pussy out and be like, "Oh, I want to, wait till the big law changes. I can't make the change here. I'm just saying no for right now." It's so angry.
Yep. But to wrap up our shit show that is news that we were not expecting, this one was going around last week. It came out at the same time that this court filing did, just 23rd, so last week. And here it is. It is being taken to you on KTLA.com. So California woman, who fatally stabbed man 108 times. No, I do not want pop-ups. Gets probation, no prison time.
This is huge. I mean, I'm surprised we're not hearing about it more. I'm surprised Kevin Sabat and the rest of all the crazies aren't clinging to this one article and all the other, like here in Washington State, I've been watching there's policy still trying to get through. And you want to watch the story?
No, I do not want to hit respecting their trademarks and copyrights, so but it is one of those things where they say in May 27th, 2018, the then 32-year-old went to an apartment where they took some hits from bong, and she experienced an adverse reaction and suffered from cannabis-induced psychotic disorder. And during that psychotic break, she murdered her boyfriend, but also repeatedly stabbed herself.
What's crazy about the story, too, is they say she wasn't in control when he forced her to take the second bong hit, and that's what pushed her over the edge. And look, the worst part about being an advocate and doing anything is sometimes you have to admit, it is medicine, but it's not medicine for everybody. Maybe there's something about this, but out of the 12 years of recreational legalization, this one woman, did everybody else get away with it? What's the What's the value in not changing the law? There is none, I think, for a betterment for what we can have. I want those flying cars, baby. We need a.
Yeah, I want to see the expert testimony on this one, but it's one of those things that there hasn't been this large upsweep in cannabis-induced psychosis, and people are doing more dabs now than have ever been done. So I don't know how the expert testimony came in front of again, this is a crime, and so it was used as a defense.
Yeah.
But I'm not a juror. I'm not a lawyer on the case. I haven't read shit of that, and so I have no idea how much of that is real. It's just that was something.
But doesn't this, because like it sets a precedent though, right? Like kind of like when people kill someone with DUIs. Back a long time ago, they used to get away with it left and right? You would get commuted sentences, and after like essentially a murder, you just took like. There's got to be I don't know where the line is to draw, but it's not stopping reform, right? We need to do more and better.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go make some money then, bro. Come on, it's the cannabis industry. You know how much cheddar people are making in this.
This one's harsh.
Yes, then shares are at zero. So if you invested, my sincere condolences to you. Anyway, we got the market report. Medman shares have zero value. Can they go negative? Keep holding it and find out. We'll see. We know that they can't file for bankruptcy, so the stock's worth nothing. And the Mint bought its assets out of Arizona for just $14 million.
Did you see the? Well, I shared with you that Berner statement where he said he made no money in weed so far.
Yep.
I think it's about overextending yourself sometimes. MedMen raised so much money and didn't, and spend it on stupid shit, like almost like a Dan Bilzerian type of way, right? Like not, on the actual product.
Wait a minute. Now,
what's good?
Go with me here in a minute, and let's make some money, bro. And so what you do is you hype it, and you take as much investor money as you can, and go on.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that.
You had a good time, and you were able to take some fat salaries out of the company, and maybe also some other assets that you can't file for bankruptcy. What are they going to do? They can get their money back.
No. RIP. I mean, they are not even a brand name, right? Like, didn't High Times get in play with them too, or was that never a play?
I don't know, but High Times ain't doing exactly good. Hey,
yeah, no, that's why I bring it up.
Did you see what would happen if they reschedule this stuff and the feds try to control the supply of cannabis as opposed to make it pure and licensed so that we can trust our medical grade cannabis? 32% of consumers will just go back and buy from their guy if the Fed's Schedule 3 move limits market access.
Sure. Goes to my point that if they were to reschedule the plant and these present markets don't get messed with, nothing's going to change. But if they do get messed with, people do find a way, right? There's a reason why there's a traditional market in this plant. People out of needs, they will do things, right? Like a lot of these consumers, a lot of your stores, your growers, they just want to be law-abiding, just citizens, right? Like, we're going to have a store. That'd be great. I quit my day job, and we focus on that stuff, the assets.
You don't quit your day job. You get a whole new day job.
Yeah. I'm saying
yesterday I didn't work. I don't work on Saturdays. It is the hardest day of the week. For me, very often.
Oh, I bet.
I need to do this and that and this other thing, and then don't forget this. And then I'm like, no. Rest and just enjoy life. What's wrong with you? One day a week. It's difficult.
That's so funny, dude. And that's why I'm scared too. To I'll be leaving structured billion-dollar corporations who circle jerk each other off to figure out like us. That's going to be a new adventure, but it's gonna be fun because it'll be a new. Again, education. That's what we've been doing. Nice.
Just take the money. I would just take the money and stay working and say this is some nice money that I'm getting right now. Not sure if that's going to last.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. But again, that's the focus is to make more after I can get a start.
Well, I mean, as long as we make $1.50, we've beat Burner.
Well, and we beat MedMen.
And Redmond, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you got any more?
Nope, that's our show for the week, everybody. Cannabis legalization news is brought to you by Collateral Base. And then if you wanted to get involved and have your video made on cannabis legalization news, you can become an executive producer of my next episode. And we have this page right here. It's Cannabis Legalization News /sponsor, and you can get featured on it. There's so many people that try to get a guest spot on our podcast because it's evidently popular. Now, what if we'd have you on as a guest, but also we'd be able to make a video about an interesting and important issue? Because like one of the difficult things is, what am I going to do a video of next? You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so if somebody would help me out with that, we could make some joint content. It would probably be kind of like more like sponsored style, because like usually people have a reason why they want on the show, and it is very often related to their business.
Yeah, no, we're getting there. It's a fun ride. We're getting there.
Fun ride. All right, guys, don't forget to check out this next video, and we'll see you next week, I believe, with a guest.